join, we can get started. Welcome everyone. Be quite welcome to our virtual event, Softlanding in Portugal for tech startups. My name is Pedro Enriquez. I'm the founder and CEO at APREDIN. Today we'll have 3 talks followed by Q&A at the end. This is scheduled to take 1 hour in total. 15 minutes, hopefully each talk, followed by 15 minutes Q&A at the end. The first talk will be by Stephanie Freitas from Startup Portugal. She'll talk about, tools for entrepreneurs, followed by Carlos Cortes from Rede Dinâmica 21st, and where he will talk about soft landing programs for early stage startups and possible interesting funds that they can apply to. Lastly, the third talk would be Nikitas Kokorelis from APREDIN, and he'll talk about expanding business to Portugal and how to build a tech hub. You should see on the bottom of the screen a box with a Q&A where you can write any questions you might happen to have during the sessions. Hopefully we can get to them in the end of the session. Before we start, I do want to say thank you to all the speakers today, Stephanie, Carlos, and Nikitas. Thank you so much. Really happy to have you. I think it will be a great productive session for everyone. The first to kick things off will be Stephanie. So Stephanie, feel free, the stage is yours. You should be able to share the screen and get started. Yes.
Okay. Hi everyone. Well, like Pedro said, I'm Stephanie de Freitas. I'm a program manager here at Startup Portugal. And I just thought in my presentation, just to help in your soft landing journey, we'll kind of introduce to you the Portuguese startup ecosystem and a few of the tools and initiatives that we as a company has to help you in that along your way. So let's get started. So pretty much the first question is what is it about Portugal that is attractive? What is it that is enticing people to come over here, to open a branch, to relocate? What is it that makes us special pretty much? And the great thing is that we are a triple threat country. We have amazing talent, amazing infrastructure, and we're very welcoming. So just on the talent side, we have a really strong STEM system within our public schools and universities. And because of that, our graduates that are coming out within the maths, engineering, IT technology space are really well sought after, and there's a lot of competition. So you've got amazing talent pool at your fingertips. You've got the right infrastructures. We are the first country in the world to connect our public schools to fiber optic connectivity. So we are definitely have a very strong connectivity across the entire country. So no matter where you are, you don't have to necessarily land yourself in one of the key capital cities or key cities within Portugal. You can pretty much work anywhere that you can, that you need to, which is also a very strong trend at the moment with the remote working being the way it is. We definitely have the right country that offers those kind of tools for you. We also have amazing transport and health and social services and departments. So we're very well structured and we're a welcoming, warm kind of community and people. I think that's definitely the soul of who we are as a community, specifically in a startup ecosystem. People are at the forefront, which is really what makes us so unique as well. So just talking about our ecosystem, we have 1 decacorn and 3 unicorns. So our decacorn in our startup ecosystem is OutSystems. They've been around for roughly 20 years and are doing very well. Then we have 3 unicorns in the country as well. And we have amazing startups and scale-ups up and coming, such as Uniplaces, Landing Jobs, Remote Work, Barkland, which is an amazing e-commerce platform that helps with dog food and accessories. And I mean, I use them myself for my pets. I think it's really important to support local produce and local startups. So yeah, these are just a few names to look out for as you're kind of scaling our ecosystem. And then a little bit about our booming ecosystem. So we have a national network of incubators, which reports that kind of shows you from 2016 to 2020, we had a real boom in the incubator scene in our country. So we had over these 4 years, 41 new incubators come through, which shows you the need for incubators and the growth of the startup ecosystem over these 4 years that needed incubation. So during that time, there was those startups that were in incubation had 80% survival rate. And between 2016 to 2019, there was a 60% increase in the number of startups being incubated. So it just reiterates how strong our startup ecosystem is, the booming amount of startups that generated over those years, and the need for incubation, which is very strong. To continue, just a little bit about how our startups are contributing to our economy. So there's reported in 2018, 1.1% of our GDP was brought through the startup ecosystem. In 2018 alone, they had 25,000 people, and in 10 years, they've had 2,000 people, and they're still growing. So there's showing you that, you know, again, complementing the incubation growth, there's a big need for startups. There's opportunities and growth within startups, and jobs and employment, you know, is definitely available for those looking at relocating and finding jobs here. And then also just looking at the money raised by Portuguese startups in 2018, we had 485 million come through, which is a very generous sum for the region that we are. We're a very small country, and you know, most of our startups contribute 0.2% of the GDP within that 2018, so which is higher than Germany, France, and Spain. So, you know, we might be a small country, you know, euro, which is 42 euros per capita, might be smaller than Germany and France, a little higher than Spain's, which is great, but our output is a lot stronger and a lot higher than some of the other startup hubs in the rest of the region. So don't let size fool you. We're definitely a competitor when it comes to our startup scene. And then it just shows in 2020, we raised 436 million, also raising 34 million of public investment. And again, 42 euros per capita and 0.2 of our GDP for that year. Just reiterates that over those 2 years, we are sustainable, that, you know, we're well managed and a strong ecosystem, because nothing really changed over those 2 years, despite the global situation that was going through. And some fun facts about our ecosystem as well. So we're 7th on the English Proficiency Index, which is amazing as a Portuguese country first. We are 7th in the world on in speaking English, so don't let language ever be a deterrent. And thinking of coming over and starting or setting up shop in Portugal, it's not. You will be able to speak English in the workplace, I promise. We're the 3rd safest country in the world. We have the 11th highest fiber optic connectivity globally, and we're 25th fastest average broadband speed in the world as well. So again, just reiterating our connectivity and how strong it is across the country. We're also a top tier European innovation scoreboard country, and our startups ecosystem equals 1% of our national GDP and growing, as I was showing before. So there's opportunities. We're a hardworking country, and you know what? We're pretty much off the charts, as well as the slide says. So, you know, we have great people, amazing food, amazing weather. What more can you ask for, really? So I just also wanted to talk a little bit about who we are as Startup Portugal and kind of the different soft landing initiatives that are available with us that you can kind of go through. So who we are as a company is we kind of talk about ourselves being the middleman between the private and the public sector. So on the private side, we work very closely with all the different actors in the startup ecosystem. So the investors, the entrepreneurs and founders, those working at the within the incubators and accelerators. We kind of work with each of them, trying to understand their needs and challenges, as well as upskilling them and giving them the right tools that they need to grow their business. So we take that information and we communicate it to the private sector. So on the private sector side, we work very closely with the Ministry of Economy and Digital Transformation, and we inform them of these different needs and challenges within our ecosystem, and they create the right policies and initiatives to help combat those challenges. So we kind of make sure that it's a 360-degree life cycle, and we just help on both sides just to grow and upskill our startup ecosystem to become one of the best that it is in the world. So these are a few of our initiatives that you can kind of use in your soft landing journey. So we have the startup voucher, the pitch voucher, and our Road to Web Summit program. So the startup voucher is a voucher available to people that are still under the age of 25, who have just graduated, who have an idea of a company they want to do, but they're not too sure what it entails or how to even get started. So this is an incubator voucher that helps people kind of go through that idea stage and help get the right incubation, coaching, and mentorship they need to kind of get their startup up and going. And then the pitch voucher and Road to Web Summit programs were there to help entrepreneurs, specifically Portuguese entrepreneurs, or those that are registered in Portugal who have companies registered here, have access to these programs. And it's a program that allows entrepreneurs to become upskilled, to practice your pitch, to understand your target market, understand how to approach an investor, and then how to make the most of these opportunities like the Web Summit that happens here every year in Lisbon. So these programs are catering towards kind of just building up the startup founders to make the most of the different opportunities that they have around them, and especially the Web Summit. Next, we have our Missions Abroad program. So this is where we take Portuguese founders to other startup ecosystems around the world, like Canada. We had one in Toronto recently. Although it's digital, usually we do physically fly people over, and we have amazing times in different hubs. We go to Israel, we go to Singapore, Latin America as well. And the whole point is to introduce Portuguese founders to new networks, new opportunities, investment opportunities abroad, to kind of learn how other companies in other countries are doing work, and kind of creating an entrepreneurship space. So that's definitely something that we're very proud of. We also have the 200M program. This is a government-funded program. It's a co-matching scheme. So if you have an investor, you've got support but you're looking for an additional boost in your resources, then the 200M program is available to Portuguese registered companies to kind of grow your revenue, grow your investment to help your revenue. And then we have the Sign Up for Portugal campaign. This kind of was launched through the Web Summit campaign that we do every year. But now it's an annual thing that's available all year round. And you're able to kind of reach out to us through this platform and get one-on-one support, kind of help you find out the steps on how to relocate, how to set up shop, where the investment is at. And you can do all of this through our Sign Up for Portugal page. We also have a monthly webinar that we started. We've done 2 already, which we'll continue to do, just to have like really amazing key speakers to be in a platform from all the different actors in the community that we have here, to kind of just talk to international entrepreneurs about the different opportunities that are available here and how they can access them. So that's our Sign Up for Portugal campaign. Next, we have different visa opportunities for international entrepreneurs looking to come over into Portugal, and for amazing tech companies looking to hire tech talent from abroad. So we had the startup visa. If you're an international, you have a company, or you think of growing a company or starting a company in Portugal, but you're looking for incubation support, then this visa is definitely available for you. If you're looking in the technology industry, it's definitely available. The tech visa helps local companies to hire specialist tech talent from abroad, bring them to Portugal to work here as well. Our e-residency program, if you're looking at having, you don't know whether you want to relocate or not, but you want to access the Portuguese market space, then the e-residency program is available to help access the market space, kind of register your company in Portugal, but all from the comfort of your home from outside of the country. So this program will be available at the end of the year to anyone. It's a total digital platform. All of these actually are digital platforms that you're able to kind of access. And then we have our one-stop shop. This is a safe space where entrepreneurs can come from all over the country, from the world, to find out more information about Portugal, about our ecosystem, about the practical things that you need to set up shop here. So usually it's in-person, although it's usually online, but it's in-person as well, sometimes if you need it. But it's a face-to-face conversation where you get to speak with usually me on the other side. Just to have a conversation about the different dynamics of having to relocate a company or open up a branch here, how to register, where is the investment, how can you hire people, what is the tax system like, all these kind of practical technical questions. We're able to give you that kind of free support online digitally through the one-stop shop. So if anyone has any questions about that, about any of these programs, so we can help support on any of these programs that we've talked about now, you can just access our one-stop shop platform and we can help you there. Yeah, and that's pretty much what we do. I think as Startup Portugal, our key role is really to try and draw attention to our startup ecosystem. Why is it relevant? The different opportunities and benefits that it can afford you, and kind of derail you a little bit into coming towards our ecosystem instead of someone else's. And that's about it. So thank you very much. Over to you, Pedro.
Awesome, Stephanie. Thanks so much. I always love that last message. If you need to take anything from this call, take the Portugal exit and come join us on the growing ecosystem we have over here. Don't be shy. Feel free to add questions you might have on the Q&A box so that we can answer them later in the session, okay? But without further ado, I'll ask Carlos to join us.
Yep. Thank you very much, Pedro.
All right.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to everybody. So I'm gonna obviously share here my screen. Thanks a lot also, Stephanie, for your great presentation. Maybe I'm gonna touch some issues that you guys have, some of them you have heard, some of them not, but basically my main focus to this afternoon is obviously soft landing and some opportunities that you have, that Europe is offering you here, especially Portugal as a gateway. So I would start today. I would start to explain for those who don't know who is Rede Dinâmica XXI. So we are basically non-profit association. We've been around quite some time, since 2005. In fact, we kind of pioneer in this market, entrepreneurship, innovation. So we've almost reaching, I would say, adulthood. But okay, we've been focusing lately, especially on startups. Some of how you can scale up here in Europe, and especially investors also, as well as investors, what kind of returns that we can offer to those investors as well. So the two things that tie them up is obviously Portugal as a gateway to Europe. So maybe I go a little bit further, what kind of association, and how what is basically our main focus, and how is our conceptualization. So you can see here, we have, as associates, we have universities, we have a little bit of everything. In fact, universities, we have city councils, we have incubators, accelerators. So we have we call it a virtual cycle. Sorry. So we can look at the way the universities produce knowledge. So we take this knowledge like a spin-off. We make startups out of that. Well, of course, with the help of the government, and we validate those business models, and we make sure that these startups are sustainable, and they sell products or services that the people buy. So this is, we call it 4Helix. This is the conceptualization that in European Union, especially the last years, very much encourage here in Europe. They encourage these organizations to especially the interaction between the university, between the government and the companies and society, very much the way they work together. All right, so I'm going go a little bit very fast, because I'm sure Nikitas is gonna explore a little bit further this. But I would say that Portugal, why should open a startup here? Well, we have really a bunch of, like Stephanie has said, a bunch of arguments. from the quality of life, stability, infrastructure, innovation, incentives. Some of them I will touch also as well. But I would say that if you're looking at Portugal, in fact, some people forget, but we are very good strategic location. And of course, for those who don't know us, we are a beautiful country. So if people actually, if you look at the expatriates that live here, they always rank us in first or second place. So Portugal is always been, in fact, a very important country in terms of globalization. In fact, it's something very much forgotten. We were pioneers in globalization back in 15th, 16th century. And it's a great platform, for those guys that either you want to enter European, besides European markets, but if you want to go to Latin America or go to, like Asia, like China, because, Macau has been longer where they speak Portuguese. India, also some of these cities you speak Portuguese still. Indonesia, obviously Africa, there are 7 or 8 countries that speak Portuguese. So it's really interesting to know how Portuguese language is globally speaking. So in terms of testbed is also a great country to test your technology, your product. These are examples of companies that has been using Portugal before they launch here in Europe. In fact, they use Portugal as a test bed. I'm not going to global recognition. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Stefani has talked about this. We have a great also recent track record. A lot of innovation. We have already 4 or 5 unicorns. But I want to focus, of course, in our programs. What kind of soft learning programs that we have? So we have a great start program. We call it MVP Market Fit. So this is a program, really great problem. If you want to come to Europe and you don't want to take the risk to create or legally create your company in somehow. So what we do is we go out in the market, we raise a customer or 2 or 3 customers, and we test and validate your product or business model. So this is a really great product, and you can test and validate your business model here without taking unnecessary risks. Of course, we help you also to raise money. We have either private funds or public funds. So if you public funds is very interesting because we now in middle of the pandemic and Portugal assuming the presidency of the European Union, we really have going to make a lot of money is coming in, and this is going to be a lot of opportunities for you guys. Besides, we have private funds. Of course, if you're willing to raise fundraising, we have investors. We're mapping investors, mapping funds. We do pitch deck review. We help you to do your due diligence, etc., evaluation. So this is something part of our job. In terms of scaling up, basically, it's very summarizing. We have noticed that some of the startups have difficulty to match European investors' requirements somehow. So what we do, we come up with a solution. We design workshops, we have mentoring, and we help them to raise the money. So we have, in fact, also, like Stefani said, we have also a kind of a one-stop shop approach. So we have whatever you need, we have it. Legal incorporation, you need a lawyer, you need an accountant, intellectual property, product strategy, mentoring, whatever. So this is us. This is what we have. Really a great network. because we are a non-profit association, so we can help you to do that. This is about your methodology. Just you have an idea how it works. So basically, we have what we do. We do initial assessment. This assessment basically is part of our track record, our history. So we have an algorithm, develop algorithm, and then we have all these variables. And basically, the startup will fill up this form, and then they will come up with a report, the scoring report. So this scoring report is like evaluation that will tell us, okay, are we ready or you're not ready to come to Europe? If you're ready, of course, what we do, well, we go up, we designed an action plan, a roadmap, an action plan, so that in 3 to 6 months, you'll be here in the market selling, making money, and having success. If you're not ready, well, so we'll, of course, we can identify your weaknesses points, and we try to help you to be ready, in fact. This is some examples of our topics, our training, what we do. We have a bit of everything, as you can see, from vision strategy, market fit, as I mentioned, projects. But I would pay you attention to especially the fundraising. So either the fundraising plans or the investor readinesses. So basically, because we help you to develop the value proposition for the investor, which is something very, very important. It's not the same as you have at home. All right, I'm gonna go touch a bit very fast also the Horizonte Europa, which is also a very good, just coming up now. So this Horizonte Europe is something is going to have like millions, billions, better. For those who don't know, this is what is more important. That we have a bit of basic research, new product development, entrepreneurship, even for startup scaling. There is money for that. But what is more important here is especially if you have either you have either have a research idea, or you want to validate your startup, or you want to accelerate your startup. This is our programs that will be available. All right. So some of the programs that we have. Well, some of them helping with the government. Stephanie already mentioned. We have this incubation voucher, which is something very interesting, useful. They can pay you up to 10,000 euros. Startup visa, she already mentioned. Some examples of calls. So example of this tourism call we just had, that Portugal Ventures, they just provide from 200,000 to 1 million euros. This is a government-owned venture capital. So we have these calls like supported by the government that are available as in the grants. Research and development, let's say you want to have a partnership with universities, local universities, to develop your product, your service, excuse me. So these are also grants available up to 85%. And finally, last but not the least, I'm going to touch a bit of Web Summit, where we are organizing every year. We're organizing some missions to the Web Summit. Web Summit, as probably you know, is really a fantastic, really fantastic summit. So just to have last year, we were something like more than 1,000 people, more than 168 countries, more than 2,000 startups, more than 1,000 investors. So this is something I consider to be one of the best technology conferences in the planet. So this is something really, if you guys are planning to come to Europe or to Portugal, this is really an event to be, and we can obviously we can help you also to prepare your participation. All right. So this is some of the testimonials that people have worked with us. You know, we have a bit of customers, everything from Brazil, Latin America, Mexico, wherever. And well, from testing your MVP or validating business model, scaling up here. I think we are one of the best locations, and we are here to help you. Very welcome to help you to come here to Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm available, of course, for questions and answers if you at the end.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carlos. I know a lot of content to try to pack, but we are precisely on time, which is great. So I'll call to the stage Nikitas, if you can join us.
Yeah, hi guys. Right. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Carlos and Stephanie, for your presentations. Let me explore the third part of this, which is the tech talent and how we can help recruiting. Share my screen in a second. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, full screen now.
Cool. So, as Pedro said at the beginning, APREDIN is a recently founded company. We started out in January 2020, and we help companies relocate to Portugal with two types of services. I'll go through them in a second. The first thing I want to share with you guys is kind of our vision on how we see things evolving after COVID. So we started pre-COVID, which was kind of the norm, maybe not so much in the US, but in Europe, this was kind of the rule. We had on-site teams, everyone was going to the office, and we had meetings in person usually. With COVID, we were kind of obliged to go home, and we went all the way to the other side to fully remote contributors, which has its advantages, but somehow we see this maturing kind of in the middle and converging to distributed team hubs, meaning you'll still have the collaboration you used to have in an office, but then you'll have an additional resilience factor, which is by being in several locations, you'll be able to address your customers in different markets, whether being software development teams, which is what we're discussing mainly here, but it could be as well sales and marketing teams or others. I don't want to overlap a lot on what Carlos and Stephanie said before, but basically, in a nutshell, Portugal has several advantages, one of which, and this is kind of, I think, an advantage to other countries that are really strong these days, namely Eastern European, like Bulgaria, Poland, that have strong credentials in software development. They don't have the stability we have in terms of government. In terms of location, I think the key points here are not only the bridge we can provide with America, South America in specific as well, because of the ties we have with Brazil, and well, Spain has mostly connections with all the countries back there. Language is the same, so in terms of barriers to entry, they're kind of close to zero. We haven't addressed here, but I think Africa, and if we go as an example to Nigeria, for example, they have 4 unicorns on there. These are the kind of markets we would like to explore as well, in the sense that they have a lot of potential, but they're not as mainstream as we usually would like them to be. Again, ties with pharma colonies help the relationship. And if a company decides to set up business in Portugal, you kind of have a fast track to these markets. So Africa, South America, America for natural reasons. In terms of talent, which is kind of the key discussion here, we have top universities. The government invests heavily in these types of programs. So when compared to the US, for example, you can see the cost for a good education is almost zero. You don't have, or you don't need to stay 2, 3, 5 years paying back your debt, and you got access to these people for 50 cents on the dollar when compared to the US or other markets. In terms of culture, this is another big point, and we got direct feedback from our clients, mainly American clients. They have teams back in Eastern Europe and here in Portugal as well. And the feedback we get is like, when I speak with my Portuguese team, I feel I'm speaking with my team in the office back in California, for example. As soon as I start speaking with my team back in Ukraine or Poland, there's a big cultural shock. So culture-wise, I think it's a good solution as well to come to Portugal. Deep diving a bit on APREDIN and the founding team. So we have Pedro, you know a bit about him, he's here today. Claudio is another founder. He's an expert in tech recruitment. He runs a very successful tech recruitment company in Portugal. Both of them, they have more than 15 years experience. Their background is computer science, so they know what they're talking about. They went through the same issues and challenges most software developers have these days. But of course, as of today, they're business managers with their own companies. Myself, I bring the other bit, so the legal, finance, and tax expertise. I used to work in a big consultancy firm for several years. So the three of us together, we have kind of a strong proposition in all vectors. Moving on to our services in particular, I think there's two which are more important, and I'll focus my presentation there. So the first two on the top, you can see Softlanding on the left side. This touches a bit and overlaps with Carlos' pitch and with Stephanie's as well. We take this service as kind of a part of a journey that starts an employer of record, the service on the side, on the right side, which is mostly companies want to kind of test drive the markets without the liability and the operational overhead of setting up business immediately, which makes sense because at some point you can incorporate, but if you just have one or two team members, it doesn't really add up financially. So kind of the path for success we define on APREDIN is start with employment of records, test the market, see if the candidates are worthwhile, if they fit your culture. And as soon as you grow the team and things are going well, you can move to incorporation and bring in someone from the headquarters to manage the local office. Sorry, or even have us help with all the management, tax compliance, legal compliance, and all of that. Another adjacent service is the part of payroll, which is on the right side, as well on the bottom corner, which is kind of running all the payroll, all the tax retentions we have to give back to the government, whether being Social Security or Autoridade Tributária, which is the finance department in Portugal. And some, which is not kind of the rule, but in some situations we have founders relocating with their families, looking for to get advantage of these non-resident programs. And sometimes they need the resident permits, visas, and all that. So we kind of connect with our partners in Portugal to kind of provide a turnkey solution, hassle-free, and avoid to have somebody go to all the local providers by himself. Just to give you a brief idea, this is the companies we work with. So talent providers, recruiters, as I said before, real estate brokers if someone is looking for long-term accommodation, law firms for set up and incorporating a business, accountants to run your monthly accounting. And then you have all these others which are not mandatory, but sometimes they come up and they seem to be important as well, which is grants and incentive specialists, as Carlos was speaking before, investors, and well, all the way down to patent and trademark registration. This is, as I was discussing before, this is how we see successful expansion working. In a first stage, we help you source your candidates within our partners. We do some pre-vetting so that you don't have to lose time interviewing everyone that applies for a specific job role. And we take care of all the onboarding. We have some programs and some clients that need help as well with team performance analysis, like performance review, and well payroll, as we discussed before. At some point in time, you're ready to move forward. Your team is growing under APREDIN, and we help you internalize your team and incorporate a subsidiary, a branch, a standalone company, with help of our partners, in this case, lawyers and notary's office. I wanted to share with you as well, because I know we have people from overseas with us today, kind of what you could expect in terms of salaries. So to have an idea of what would be, usually the negotiation starts with a yearly gross salary, which is the column in the middle. And then on the left side, you can see the net salary corresponding to each line of the gross salary. And then on the right side, the total cost of employment, which is what the company would have to pay to onboard new candidates in Portugal. To give you an idea as well, we have this table from 20K up to 80, which 20 to 30K would be kind of the minimum gross salary you'd have to propose to a recent grad, really early stage kind of developer. And it can go all the way up to 60, 70, even 80K for really experienced folks. Most of these guys on the top layer, they have to work with, overseas companies. They are remote workers. They have been contractors or freelancers in the past. So they kind of know what companies pay overseas. And that's why as well, they demand better conditions in terms of salary, but not only so in terms of equity plans and benefits and perks, which is kind of something which is growing as well in Europe and Portugal in specific with the inbound of foreign companies. I brought as well, I don't want to lose a lot of time here, but I brought a couple of slides to compare kind of Portugal with Eastern European countries, which are really competitive and have a strong as well proposition value. And what we see in most parameters is that we come on top. Stephanie spoke a bit about this. Basically, I would point out some of these. Language skills is one that Stephanie spoke briefly about, and it's kind of a no-brainer. If you're looking to set up kind of a customer service sales team, you can find pretty much all the languages in Portugal, mainly to the fact that the students are proficient in most of the times in more than one language. And on another point, and actually it helps, is we have a big community of nomads that work here, and they could be Russian, German, French. So you can find all of these languages, and that's why we have big customer care offices in Portugal from overseas companies. We discussed this before, but political stability is a big one as well. In terms of favorable immigration laws, I think the government has done a really good job setting up visas and adopting the laws coming from the European Union. So it's fairly simple to apply and actually get a visa to come to Portugal, whether being startup visa, as discussed before, or tech visa, or even all the way up to golden visas, which was kind of we saw big inbound with that kind of visa as well. In terms of quality of life and global peace index as well, we're kind of not only in the top when compared to other countries, like in this example, but actually in the top of the world. And if we move a bit further, this is kind of macroeconomic pointers. You could see, even though Portugal is a small country compared to Poland, for example, we have almost the same number of scale-ups, and this is due to us having a really healthy and strong ecosystem that keeps growing every day. In terms of bureaucracy, even though we are a still very bureaucratic country. You can start a business in a fairly quick time frame, so it should take you around a week. Of course, this depends on a lot of factors, the type of setup you're looking for. In terms of labor flexibility, we're not the best nor the worst. So we, of course, have same setup, a similar setup as other European companies. We protect a bit more our employees. So labor law is a bit stricter, especially when compared to the US, for example. Even though there's specific states, and California is one of them, that is kind of strict as well. So I think we, again, have a good position in the overall standings. In terms of GDP per capita, we're way ahead, and this reflects kind of the development as well of Portugal. And last, I have two others I want to share with you, which is the average annual salary for a software developer. You can see that Portugal, even having 23K as GDP per capita, the software developer is a bit over this amount. Interesting to see that in Poland, for example, this difference is much bigger. So in theory, it will be a bit harder to attract and please these developers back in Poland. They're used to be treated as kind of superior type of workers. So at the end of the day, I think you'll run into less problems when hiring in Portugal. And this comes as well from direct feedback from our clients. And last, I think this is a very important one, which is the time zone. So there's a big overlap with the East Coast in the US. With the West Coast, not so much, but still possible to do daily syncs. As soon as you start going to the right side of Europe, this becomes harder. And to be honest, in practical terms, the Pacific time is a bit hard to handle from Poland and onwards. With New York, you still have some kind of overlap. Sorry, I want to share with you as well, and this is kind of towards the end, our case study with one of our clients from Malta. They're building a team together with us in Portugal. And up to now, we have 4 contributors with us. And we keep developing and growing the team for them. At some point, they'll incorporate, as I was saying before, when the team grows to that size. So this is all for me. Pedro, over to you again.
Yeah, thanks, Nikitas. Thanks so much. So just 2 minutes over time. So we're doing great, and we have questions, so I'll jump right into them. The first one we got was for you, Stephanie. So if you can maybe come back, hopefully. So yes, so Ankit was asking if you can please explain a bit, if possible, about the processing times and investments for the startup and tech visas.
Okay. The processing time for the startup visa is usually about a month. So honestly, it also comes down to yourself, because the documents required for the application is usually what takes so long. It's getting the criminal record check. It's getting all the documents that you need to apply your deed of tax and things like that, or declaration of tax. So, but once everything has got good and you've submitted the application, it usually takes a month for the incubator to get back to you. And then as soon as you get the approval from the incubator, then our partner Yapme will be in touch directly about the visa process. And that's an expedited visa process. So it's much quicker. It's in a matter of weeks compared to like two months that it can usually take up to. So from start to finish, once you've submitted it, you can expect to be in the country 2 months later. On the tech side, I'm not actually too sure the exact timeframes around that. It literally comes down to the company and comes down to the individual that's being recruited for that purpose. But I can just say from experience, I have friends that, for example, went through the tech visa process from South Africa, and they came over through Volkswagen on the side, because they're also one of our companies that use the tech visa. For them, it was very quick. So it's literally just had to wait for the South African visa opportunities to open up. As soon as the embassies were open. She got a visa 2 weeks later and was in the country. So it just comes down to some of those bureaucratic issues with the different embassies. But that's the extent of my knowledge on the timeframes for that. But yeah, it's definitely the entire process of having the visa is the purpose is that it's expedited. It's quicker than you would usually do going through a D2 or a separate kind of visa for work.
All right, brilliant. Thanks so much. So the next one, I don't know who should take it, but Diogo asked about, well, maybe a comment. I don't know if you want to add something. That incubation voucher apparently didn't have any call this year. Do you know anything about that?
I can maybe Carlos, go ahead. Whoever
wants to take it.
Yeah, you see, there are different. I don't know whether is which region, because I know some regions they have closed the calls, and there are some regions they were open some calls. But in fact, this year itself, we're talking about this year is true. Last year's yes, but this year's there is no innovation call, but although we expecting that the second semester, probably Stephanie is better to answer than me, but the second semester we're expecting they are opening up calls for startups and for other vouchers. Especially, they are really going to be, as far as I know, I've just sent a post. We just wrote a post about that in our blog. 30,000 euros a voucher is going to be open for digital and green vouchers. Is going to be open the second semester. This is an example. Okay, better. So it's better than incubation voucher, actually.
Okay, good. That's what we need. Thanks, Carlos. So next one, maybe Nikitas, I'll ask you to answer this one, which is, sure, Portugal is a beautiful country. I guess everyone agrees with that, but it can be a nightmare doing business there. So what resources do you provide to deal with bureaucracy?
Tough question. Not sure who posted it, but
it's anonymous.
It goes for all the audience. It's not different from other countries in Europe, and this is kind of the first takeaway I want you to have. Most of the procedures you find in Portugal, they are European-based. They come from laws directly approved in the European Union. So what can happen in Portugal, and I agree it can be nerve-wracking, is we are not super proficient dealing with paperwork and other stuff that you need. So there's always a lot of signatures involved and stuff like that. It's not yet digitalized. So what I think is with COVID, stuff is better. So most of the processes, you can do them online. For example, Autoridade Tributária, which is one of the biggest entities you'll have to deal with, most of the procedures, you can do them online. So this would be pay, apply, open activity, and other matters. So I agree, we're on the right track. This is not the US, so we have to be patient.
I just want to add that, I mean, we've been ranking, if you look at the ranking, doing business in the United Nations, I mean, we've been really ranking very good. We're like, I think, top 10, if I'm not wrong, but Stefani can correct me. I can just give you an example of that. You know, how long does it take to create a company here? I mean, this is one of the fastest in the world. We have less than 1 hour. You can set up a company here. It's really fast. Of course, as with COVID, I agree, the things are a bit slower. But I mean, you just tell me which part of the world you can set up a company less than 1 hour, and very totally, as you said, completely. How do I say? Completely. You don't need to have. You can be investor, foreign investor. You can be no need to have a Portuguese director, etc., etc. So it's really, we are very liberal as far as foreign investment is concerned. So you guys can easily set up a company here with €1. So what else do you need?
Well, thanks for adding that, Carlos. And thanks everyone for the questions. We have a lot. So we have 6 minutes left. I will try to maybe pick the ones that feel more interesting. And this one seems quite provoking. So I don't know who wants to take it, but it feels like quite interesting. Someone asked, again, anonymous, but if we need to name a few topics, actions where Portugal should improve, what would be the 3 key choices? So what I'll do is I'll let every one of you take one, and we'll have 3 total. So areas of improvement for Portugal.
Bureaucracy. But that's standard, like Nicholas was saying, it's a standard issue across Europe. But we're working on it. I think we don't have anything 100% sorted out, but you know, it's always something that can be fine-tuned, and we're always aware of that.
Next.
Yeah, I'm actually typing. I think bureaucracy is a very wide topic. So what I'm writing down is, I think we should simplify our tax system. It's a nightmare between, and this is kind of direct feedback from our clients again. It's a nightmare to keep up with all the small taxes, all the different public bodies you have to interact with. So that's one. Another one would be to digitalize all the processes you do manually. We are on the right track to do that. And I think another big one would be provide faster and more accurate help to small companies because there are programs in place. There is money, as Carlo was saying, but then it's a nightmare to get access to that money. Whereas I know we have people from Switzerland here. In Switzerland, for example, after COVID, I have a very good friend there. He's a founder and CEO of a startup, a really small one. And he got a direct call from his branch manager, the bank branch manager. The next day, he was asking if he wanted 500,000 Swiss francs to keep up with his activities. So that's something that exists in Portugal, but I don't know why it doesn't work as fast as it should. And at some point when you get there, well, you don't need the money anymore because you're closing business. So,
Carlos, something to improve?
No, really, of course, there is always areas of improvement. I was just thinking about, I mean, it's a cliche, but I really think politicians, you know, I think we need to really change our politicians here to be more you know, capable of more to deliver what they promise, and that is, I think, is something for me. I mean, from my point of view, of course, there are, as I said, a lot of areas of improvements for sure, but I think politicians is for us. From my point of view, it's the most importance to attract more quality people to politics. So no job for the boys, kind of. This is something that is really, we suffer, we as entrepreneurs, we suffer a lot of, because we have, the people are in charge, or the people have the decision making. They are not really, I mean, generally speaking, of course, there are quality people as well, but I'm talking about in general, the quality is really a bit lower than I think should.
Awesome, thank you. And if I may add something, my personal take is that I personally feel, having worked in different markets, that Portuguese are not the best at planning. We should be better at planning. And it's interesting enough, I think it comes with the environment we are at, because we've been blessed with the country with a lot of sun. Things kind of work. You get food. You don't need to plan to survive in the winter because everything is snowed down, right? So, however, with that comes also something interesting that I'll also use for our final question as a segue, which is, because we are not necessarily amazing to plan, I think we are really good at something, which is get scrappy and get things done. which from my experience,
improvisation
works really, really well with a lot of the mindset in startups, right? Because you sometimes don't know exactly how to do, but you know where you want to do, right? So you want scrappy people that can do stuff. And last question, we are getting out of time here. Maybe for you, Nikitas, someone asked, I find this quite interesting, which is, what about work ethic of Portugal versus Eastern Europe? My experience has been that Eastern Europe have better work ethic and are more productive.
I kind of wrote an answer for that. I think there's, from the same person, an even more interesting question, but we can get to that later. Really quickly, what I wrote is from clients we have that have teams both in Portugal and Eastern European countries like Poland, Ukraine, we're not getting the feedback that people in Portugal are less productive. If I may, my take on that, maybe this is because in Portugal, especially in summertime, of course, you want to get out and you want to enjoy as well the food, weather, and all the activities outdoors. So maybe the comment comes from there. But I don't feel at all that Portuguese developers are less proficient or have a bad work ethic compared to Eastern European ones.
So we are just about the end of our time. We'll take note on answers and follow up on some that might have not got answer. I know that some got answer in written form by Carlos and Stephanie, which is great, thank you. So let me appreciate again everyone's time, particularly the speakers, Nikita, Stephanie, and Carlos, but obviously everyone attending this session. Thanks so much. Hopefully this was enjoyable and good information for you. All right, and well, do choose Portugal for relocating and start and scale your business. Okay, take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. See you. Have a good.
Thanks, everyone.
Great time.
Bye.